Hi everyone, it's me, Krylios, Team Racing Productions MC and producer. And joining me today is Kelly Mikel Williams. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Krylios.
It is a pleasure to have you here with us today. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, my brother?
I am doing well as well. Well, the way how we like to kick things off here is having our guests introduce themselves to our audience and letting them know a little bit about you, your background, and experience. So please start us off.
Well, first of all, my name is Kelly Mikel Williams. I am a Ward 8 resident, and I am a single father. I'm a homeless survivor. I'm a caregiver for my 82-year-old mother who suffers from dementia and Alzheimer's. I'm a trauma recovery. I've worked at every level of government, federal, state, and local, and I've received 3 separate presidential appointments. The most recent government appointment was at the local level here in DC as the Constituent Services Director for then at-large Council Member Vincent Orange, where I solved problems for constituents across the city. I was Councilman Orange's whip, if you would call it. You know, I shepherd his legislation. I would go to all the ANC meetings and the Civic Association meetings, and I would essentially talk to the the ANC and the members in the community about his legislation and what he was doing, like his $15 tip minimum wage, like us being able to provide high school diplomas to GED graduates, different things like that, or the $1 billion for small businesses. Half of that money has to go to small businesses. So that's what I've done. I've been, working from the U.S. Department of Agriculture to the White House to Farm Credit to state legislature, where I've worked with community, I've worked with organizations, I've worked with government officials, and have been doing the hard work, trying to get them to make the hard decisions so that the people around the communities get the benefit from that. So like I said, you can call me like his whips or the whip for the council at that time, because that's what I was doing. I was just encouraging people to support the legislation, and they would then encourage their members, their council members, to support the minimum wage, support the GED program, support whatever it was that we were doing, and get those bills passed. And that's what I've been doing. Now I take care of my mother, as I mentioned earlier, who's 82, has Alzheimer's, and I publish a magazine.
Awesome. Now, tell me why is this the ideal time for you to throw your hat in the ring and represent the people of the District of Columbia as a delegate in Congress?
Well, I'm running for delegate because I believe that we need a responsive government to the taxpayer. We pay the taxes and we pay the salaries for our elected officials. And I believe we have to hold that government accountable and not accept longevity as a sign of effectiveness. More importantly, I think that government should be responsive to our needs, to the people's needs. We have a housing crisis in the District of Columbia. That crisis is leading to a homeless epidemic, and our government, specifically our delegate, has been non-responsive to those needs of her constituents. And that's a problem. She has the belief that evictions don't lead to homelessness, and homeless people are people who just have never had a home or just decide to live on the street. And in my opinion, that's out of touch with what reality is. And so I'm running because I believe that after 32 years in office, you should have a succession plan. And she openly admits that she does not have a succession plan. She intends to continue to run for office until she's physically incapable of doing so. And I don't think that's leadership. I think that is selfishness. And she isn't running to serve the resident. She's running to serve a special interest or herself. I don't know which one it is, but it's not the residents of the district. So I think now is the time, because at this crucial moment in time in our city, in our community, we need someone who cares about the residents of the District of Columbia and who will put them first. Now, as I said in my opening, I was homeless, Krylios. So when you've been homeless, you have a whole different perspective on life and how you look at things. And your responsiveness to that, during that situation is very critical. Now, for me, it was critical because one, I had just come from working at the White House and having another 2-year term appointment. It was actually a 4-year term appointment, but I got let go in the 2 years because the administration had changed. And I had a 3-year-old son. So it's not only me that I'm worried about, but it's him. And so at 3 years old, he can talk, he can tell everybody, hey, we don't have a place to live. We're sleeping in the back of a car. We can do all these things. So that is critical to me to try to protect him, try to provide for him, and try to figure out what the heck I'm going to do. Now I'm leaving, the highest echelon of government, and now I'm somehow overqualified for all the jobs I'm applying to, and no one wants to hire me. So now I'm sleeping in the back of my car. And so when you have that kind of pressure and that type of thing that you're looking at, when you see tent cities across this city and you see encampments moved out at Union Station and places like that, or you hear about Miguel Gonzalez freezing to death at Adams Morgan, or the gentleman in Thomas Circle getting shot, so you have a different think about like what's real important. And so I believe that we need someone who has the passion, compassion, and understanding of what's occurring across the district and what's impacting our quality of life. And that, to me, is me. The person who can best address something is the person who's lived it. And I understand how every one of those individuals who are sleeping in the tent feels, how the mental trauma that they're going through, what they're suffering from, without treatment, with treatment, how their children are dealing with it. Because as a single father, you kind of figure out what's going on. And let me remind you of this too. At that time, DC, and even to this day, does not have any programs or shelters for single fathers. So there was no place for me to go. So when you have that and you've lived it, you have a whole new perspective on what's important and how to deal with things. It's not just passing legislation just to say you did so. It's to pass legislation so that it benefits and helps the community that you serve. And so that's why I think it's important at this time that we have a choice on the ballot. Because, I give Delegate Norton her props. She's been there 32 years. She's done a great job. But after 32 years, it's time to say, okay, let me allow another generation to come in to address the issues that are changing, because things are changing rapidly and we need to be able to keep up with that and be able to have the energy and stamina to really push and fight for the issue. The Republican Party is not going to give up. They're going to try to do whatever they can to stop the district from being the state, from stopping us to having autonomy over our budget, and so many others. And we have to be creative in how we deal with that. And we can't keep doing it the same old way. We have to have new allies, new interests. And it's a saying that you have, it's like no public enemies, no public allies, only permanent interests. And so we have to understand what our permanent interests are and find allies with those same interests to be able to help us solve the problems that we have across this country, not just in the District of Columbia.
Certainly, certainly. And along with homelessness, I'd love to know what other challenges are like at the top of your mind when you think about representing the District of Columbia in Congress.
So with homelessness, it's also for me, finding and providing what I call real affordable housing. Okay, creating jobs and reducing crime. And so how do we do that? First of all, we use the vouchers that we have for chronic and temporary homelessness. Last year, of the federal vouchers that we had, the district only used 27% of them. And as a result of only using a quarter of the vouchers being used, a number of Washingtonians were killed and died. As I mentioned earlier, Miguel Gonzalez, he froze to death in Adams Morgan. He froze to death because Truist Bank blocked off the Adams Morgan Plaza, put a fence up around it, took his sleeping bag, took his tent, and along with the others, took all their belongings and basically dumped him and threw him away. He still had nowhere to go. And ironically, he was evicted. So that's why he was homeless. And he froze to death on March 28th. We just did a vigil for him this past weekend, and we had done one previously but the Truist Bank took down that memorial. So we did another one this past weekend to put that memorial back up. And with that is because if our government isn't being held accountable and we don't ensure that they use 100% of the federal vouchers that are available that we use to protect the homeless, we're doing a disservice. And that is a proud, I believe that is a product of our delegates' position to do. So as delegate, I'm going to make sure that those federal vouchers that come to the district, that we use them, and we use them prudently, and we use them all up so that no one is left out there in the cold and no one is sitting in a morgue, unfortunately, frozen to death. And by providing real affordable housing, we can eliminate homelessness, and we can provide housing for everyone in Washington that needs it and wants it. Because real affordable housing isn't this idea that we're just going to do 30% or 60% AMI and we're going to do 70% of affordable housing. I mean, market rate housing, excuse me. We don't need any more market rate housing. We have enough of that across the city. We need affordable housing. And affordable housing is changing the AMI, the area median income ratio. I'm going to introduce legislation that will change the calculations for DC's AMI, which is currently includes Maryland and Virginia. A lot of people, as I was walking precincts yesterday and door knocking, I was talking to the people about real affordable housing and the AMI. A lot of people didn't understand what AMI stood for. What it stands for is area median income. And what that is the average of the income across the quote unquote area or the city. Well, for the District of Columbia, we use Fairfax County, Arlington County, Alexandria, Howard, Montgomery, and Prince George's County in our area median income, in our AMI. So now our AMI is 129,000. It used to be 89,000. That's because of the higher incomes in those other districts and other jurisdictions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with HUD. I'm going to draft legislation to carve out DC so we have our own AMI and we'll control that. We'll give that to the housing authority so that they can calculate, but I'm going to be hell on their bones to make sure that they do exactly what they're supposed to do. Because those federal vouchers and those federal funds that are coming, we need to hold someone accountable for that. So that I feel is my responsibility to do and to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the right reasons. If we had used 100% of those vouchers, lives probably could have been saved. And only using 27% of them, that's a whole lot of money that's left on the table. I believe it's $14 million that was left on the table that went back, I think, to the government where they lost those monies and they lost those vouchers. We can't keep doing that. The other thing is creating jobs. So I want to create jobs by using, again, federal funds, and I want to fund UDC to expand their workforce development program to go beyond where they are today. I think they have some about 10 to 15 programs right now. We want to expand that and use that so district residents, can get back on their feet and change careers or do whatever they need to do. Because last October, many people didn't know this either. And I don't know if your folks knew about it, Krylios, or if you yourself, but we lost 250,000 jobs last October. That's a third of our population. And you have heard nothing about it from anyone, let alone our delegate. And she has said nothing about how she's going to help those people get their jobs back. Not a word. Just like there's been nothing said about homelessness and how we're going to get housing. So these are the areas that we need to recognize that we have to do something about, and it's critical at this time. That's why we can't stick with the status quo. The status quo has never taken us into the future. It's only kept us where we are. That's why it's called status quo, okay? So we have to look to the future, and we have to look beyond today and what's going to happen tomorrow and look beyond. And then finally, what I want to do is reduce crime. And my belief is that once we can create the job and once we can provide the housing, we can then reduce the crime because the motivator for survival has been met, the food, the shelter, and the employment. Because when I was homeless, Krylios, I couldn't think about anything other than survival. So I couldn't think about, going back to school or getting another degree or going get a job. I mean, I was trying to get a job every day, But my main priority was protecting my son, trying to feed my son, and then figure out where we were going to sleep that night. Because I was sleeping in the back of my car because we didn't have any place, no shelters to go to. And at the same time, I'm trying to make sure that Child Protective Services doesn't find me and come and take my son away from me. So now I'm trying to find places for him to sleep, or I'm trying to pretend that we're playing a game or do something, just to keep him from being able to say to any adult, me and my dad are sleeping in the back of the car, or anything of that nature. So by doing that, I think if we can do that, we can be able to find a way to be able to reduce crime. Now, of course, those who are going to commit crime are going to commit crime. But the reality is this, that once I got shelter, once I got a roof over my head and I was able to stay somewhere, I could then think. I could then process what was next and what I needed to do. Because I was no longer in survival mode of just being there. I was more so like, okay, now let me breathe. Now let me figure out what's next. And now let me move forward. And that's how I was able to get where I needed to go, because my church then provided me with a job. I then worked at my church. After that, I then got the opportunity to work at the city council of Vincent Orange and get on my feet, reestablish myself, buy a home, get my son through high school. Now that 3-year-old is a sophomore in college, right? That's getting straight A's on the dean's list. So once we're able to address those issues, we can deal with it. So those who are committing crimes because of what they were doing or what they want to do, then we're going to bring in the 32 police agencies. So those who are committing crime because of the suffering of not having a house and loss of job, things of that nature, we satisfy that problem. Now for those who are just chronically criminal behavior, now we introduce our 32 police agencies. We have 32 police agencies in this city, more than any other jurisdiction in the country. And yet the only MPD is responsible for the safety of the city. That should change. We should have all agencies working together to protect the nation's capital. It makes no sense to me that there are 32 police agencies, but you only have one agency that's really patrolling the city. Now, each of these agencies also have uniform divisions or patrol divisions. So if they have a uniform division, if they have a patrol division, there's no coordination among them to protect the residents of the District of Columbia. But anytime we have a violent spike in crime, what do? We create a task force. We create a task force, and then that task force lasts for like 6 months, 18 months, a year, 2 years, whatever the case may be. And then once we see a quote unquote tick, a drop down in the crime rate or something of that nature, then the task force is abandoned and we go back to normal, crime rises again, we do another task force. So what if we do a permanent task force? We take members from each one of the agencies and we use them to protect the nation's capital. If we do that, Krylios, I think then those who are out there, they're looking to do crime, they won't know who is who. They'll see an MPD, they'll see a Secret Service, they'll see a Park Police, they'll see a DC Protective Service, they'll see a Capitol Police, they'll see a Housing Authority, they'll see anyone, but all of them have the authority to stop, arrest, cite, do citations, do whatever beyond what their normal agenda is. Because, each one of them have their own separate specific agenda that they want to hold on to. But when you think of police, don't you think protect and serve? Don't you think that they're supposed to be there at any moment, at any time to do whatever? I mean, how many times have you seen something going on and you see an MPD car just drive right by? It doesn't even stop. It drives right by because it's not their district, or it wasn't their call, or it wasn't this. We need to be able to have like an all hands on deck type of thing where all the agencies are patrolling the city at all times, so that the criminals don't know who is who and what's what. And then you're able to now try to prevent some crime. But think about it from this standpoint too. You'll have a quicker response time. So if something happens and there's a Secret Service uniform police in the area, he can or she can respond to it quicker than maybe the MPD can, because they're on the other side of the ward, right? Or they're on the other side of the district where their district is located. So now you have more people in the area, and they always say that preventing crime is by deterrent by cops being on the street and you being able to see them. Added to that, I think, is we need to add CCTVs across the city like New York. Put CCTVs in our high crime areas, in our metro areas, downtown, across the city, where we have federal dollars, federal programs, where we'll get that money to put up cameras across the city, just like New York. Our footprint isn't as large as New York, but they have cameras everywhere so that you can see any and everything, people getting on subways, getting off subways, trains, buses, cars, wherever they're going, you can see it. And I think that too will reduce crime.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. Now, when does voting begin here in DC? Voting has begun. So when did voting begin and when is the primary?
So the primary is June 21st, and voting, people receive their absentee ballot or their mail-in ballot, if you will, last Monday. They started mailing them out last Monday on the 16th. So through this, the 6th. Through this week, people have started to receive their absentee ballots or mail-in ballots, and early voting starts on June 10th, which is this Friday. So early voting starts on Friday. You can actually start going to the polls and voting early at designated locations. And then on June 21st, election day, you can then go to the polls then that day. I believe it's from 7 to 8 or 8 to 8. 7 to 7 or 8 to 8. I don't recall the time right now, but that's when the primary is on June 21st.
Awesome. And we'd like to remind our viewers to keep those dates and deadlines in mind. And with that, please to check your voter registration status. You can go to headcount.org to check your voter registration status, pledge to vote, and register to vote. Once again, you can go ahead and check your voter registration status, pledge to vote, and register to vote from anywhere in the country. Make sure that you are ready for those dates. Now, before I let you go, Kelly Mikel Williams, how can people learn more about you, learn more about your campaign, follow you, keep up with what you're doing, and donate, support, and volunteer with your campaign if they want to?
Absolutely. I appreciate that. First of all, make sure when you're going to the polls, you vote for Kelly Mikel Williams. I'm number 3 on the ballot. We're at the top of the ticket. Our race, as it's designated, is the first one on the ballot. The federal races are first, and then come your city council races down below. So our race is first. I'm number 3. I'm right behind our current delegate. So please vote for Kelly Mikel Williams. Vote for change, because Washington, we can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We have to have courage to change course. So you can go to kellymikel4dc.com, and that's where you can get my website. That's KELLYMIKELFORDC.com for my website. You can go there, you can scroll down, you can contribute there. You can also register there and let us know that you would like to get a yard sign, you want to volunteer, you want to help us out. If you would like to join us on this Saturday for the Pride Parade and you'd like to walk with us and throw beads and be in Mardi Gras, we'd love to have you. You can also let us know that. You can put your information in there and let us know that you'd like to do that. On our social media, it's Kelly Mikel 24/7. KELLYMIKEL 247. That's on Facebook and Instagram. And then on Twitter and TikTok, it's Kelly Mikel DC, KELLYMIKEL DC on TikTok and Twitter. So certainly let us know. We have a donation button on there. You can hit us up. You can get to our link tree as well, and you can fill out the link tree information. We certainly wish to have you help us walk precincts, door knocking, lit drop, everything that's going on these next 14 days. Today is Monday, 15 days, 14 days. It's a rush. It's a blurb. So it's a sprint to the finish, and we're excited. We have an event on Friday in Foxhall. So certainly if you want to join that, let us know on our website or on Linktree, and we'd be glad to invite you and bring you out and join you. If you want a yard sign, help us out. And please donate. We still have time to donate because we still have ads to get out. So please donate, donate, donate. We need it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Kelly, for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure getting to chat with you. And I wish you the best of luck on your campaign. To those
Thank you so
watching,
much.
please. Thank you. Thank you. To those watching, please follow Team Racine Productions at Team Racine on all forms of social media. Click around our YouTube channel and check out our other interviews, forums, vlogs, and more. And while you're there, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. But most of all, thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.